So let me ask David. Yeah, David, I mean, you can go ahead and add something, but I'd like you to also address, a lot of the discussion has been around retail. Do you have any insight on restaurants?
Yeah, restaurants, I mean, I think a lot of the experience inside of a restaurant is also kind of, as you mentioned, the manager being in the front. It's also the waiter or the waitress that's serving the restaurant being near their customers. And if they're spending a lot of time at the terminals, placing orders, at the back, fixing issues, things like that, it's not going to be the best possible experience for a customer. So I think there's been a lot of driving demand over the past 5 years or so to have some sort of mobility solution for tableside ordering, and also with the emerging credit card theft issues, not emerging, the present credit card issues. A lot of customers are unhappy having their credit cards disappear and go to the back of the restaurant to a mystery place for 2 or 3 minutes, not knowing if that number is being stolen at the end. It's become a big fear for consumers. So I think that the demand for restaurants has been building up pretty fast over the past 5 years. But with the consumer devices that they introduced versus a lot of these traditional devices is a lighter device that's generally a little bit easier for the server to work with, as opposed to the business. The actual person, the waiter or waitress working with the device, sometimes has an easier time with the consumer device. And they're coming in at a price point that is definitely more affordable for a lot of restaurants that will be out of reach otherwise. So I definitely think that you have the ruggedness issue. I do think the consumer devices have become a little more reliable as time has come on versus the first and second generations. And I think it's going to continue. As with a lot of technology, I mean, if you look at the PC of 10 years ago going into everybody's home versus the reliability of a PC, 10 years later now, PCs are really fairly reliable. They have, much fewer issues. So I actually do believe that consumer devices have a place. They have a big place inside of a restaurant because of the utility and because of the cost a lot of restaurants can adopt them. The biggest issue does become security on two folds. One of them being, securing the actual data and the infrastructure. And the other is the security of the actual physical device and making sure it doesn't walk off with your staff. And I think one way for VARs to benefit from that is actually going ahead and trying to offer some sort of service and train the restaurants that you work with, or if it's in a retail environment, the retailers you work with, how they can actually manage those devices. Maybe it's putting a barcode on each one and they check them in or out. But I think that in addition to the technology itself being a popular offer here, VARs have the ability to create additional services that serve the business that are kind of a little bit outside of what you would normally think when you're working with a retail store or restaurant.
Okay.
I'd just like to make a comment on the other side of Alan's divide here of products really run and operated by the retailer versus those owned and operated by the consumer. And for many years, the only real consumer device that a store or a restaurant has had to really interface with is one of these, credit card. And that's what's changing rapidly now. You're seeing where, for a year or two, if you've had a Target app, for example, you've been able to find, the nearest Target store is here, and the Christmas tree stand you were looking for is in aisle 34, B or something like that, and how many they've got in stock. So the line between the enterprise, the retail enterprise, and the consumer device is starting to blur because they're starting to tie in, and I think we're starting to see more and more, especially if you start getting the loyalty space, promotion space, where shoppers with their app phones or smartphones going down the aisle will be alerted to deals that they have and maybe their own specific pricing because now they're opposite the Cheerios display, and they've got a $1 off on a big box of Cheerios or something. And these will be messages coming from the retailer, but they're being received by the shopper on that consumer device. So it's starting to get a little blurry on that. So again, I think there's going to be an opportunity, even in the consumer device area, there's going to be an opportunity where retailers and merchants are going to be looking to dealers to say, okay, I've got to implement a system here because part of my loyalty or part of my shopper interface is going to be interfacing to these shopper devices, and we're going to have systems, and we're going to have antennas, we're going to have infrastructure, and more than anything else, we're going to have questions and answers that we need help from the dealers.
Okay. Can I make one more comment?
Sure.
Okay. The one thing we do know is taking the point of sale to the point of sale is a good idea. Taking the point of sale to the point of sale at the table is a good idea, or line busting in QSR. But let's talk about table service for a moment, and the math is very strong in the right environment. We're going to increase table turns. We're going to provide opportunities to suggestive selling, increase the average check. We're probably going to improve our morale because our servers are going to get better tips, higher tips, so to speak, because of the engagement that they have with their customers. We're going to, as it was mentioned, we're going to have less traditional POS terminals because there's less pre-check going on because we're out on the floor processing transactions. So I think it's important to focus on what we do know. We do know that taking the point of sale to the point of sale is a good idea, and there's some great technologies out here, consumer devices and the like, that could certainly play into the mix. We just want to do it in a fundamentally sound way.
Eric?
Yeah, I think that just a few observations. I believe that really, in some respects, we're still in the infancy stage when it comes to mobility. And I think that if we take and look at just how far things have come in the past couple of years, I mean, if you just factor in that the first iPad came out just 16 months ago, and you look at the impact that it's had on retail and on food service just up in those last 16 months, you also have to then think about what changes are going to take place over the next 16 months or over the next 48 months. And the reality of it is, to me, that the evolution of point of sale, we're looking at 30, 40, 50 years. But now that we're looking at mobility, we have so many people seeing so many possibilities. And I think that part of the problems that we're facing is that we have a lot of people, whether it be vendors, credit card processors, different types of companies out there, companies selling loyalty solutions, that are looking to use mobile devices in a variety of ways. But in reality, I think in some respects what we've lost, or what we've forgotten about so far, is what does a consumer want from us? How can we make their shopping experience better, giving them what they're looking for? And I think these are just things that are really going to shake out over time. And I think we're going to start to see more integrated applications that will be specific to the particular type of retailer, that will also be specific to their type of customer that they serve. So I think that, there's a lot of unanswered questions. I think there was a lot of good points that was made by the panel here so far. But I also think that if we sat down and did the same thing 2 years from now, we'd be looking at something totally different than what we're looking at right now. So things are going to change, and I think we're still in a learning stage. And I think the speed of technology is going to allow for the changes to take place that's going to provide some of the ruggedness that we need. Maybe it's a particular type of cases that are developed for environments, or maybe there's going to be ruggedized type mobile equipment that's going to come out. But I think the solutions are really going to be driven by the opportunity, and I think the opportunity's there. So I think that we're just going to continue to see more and more creative and more solution-specific types of things coming out from both manufacturers, ISVs, etc.